Hello everyone, welcome to Chess Master Journey. Today we are at the part 12 King's Pawn opening and we're going to look at the 4 knights game today. So let's look at the positions for the 4 knights game. We'll start with E4, E5 and F3 and C6 and C3 and F6. So this is the position for the 4 knights game. Let's take a look again. E4, E5, and F3, and C6, and C3, and F6. So this is the 4 knights game. Now we're going to look at the variations that we have under this game. So what are the moves that can be done and what are the variations we have under this? So let's start. So to start, we will begin with the bishop, the F bishop to move to B5 square. Okay, as you all can see this position on the screen, this is known as the Spanish variation of the 4 knights game. So how we can continue the game under the Spanish variation is, so perhaps we can use the black bishop to move to the B4 square. Now, as you move the bishop to the B4 square, it becomes the double Spanish game under the 4 knights game. So for the white turn, the white would do the castling. And for the black, it also can go for the castling. And now we can use the D pawn to D3 square. And for the black, we can use the D pawn to D6 square. Now this is known as the Spanish variation and also known as the symmetrical variation under the Spanish. So now to continue the game, we can use the white bishop to G5 square. And now in this position, we can use the black bishop to capture the knight in the C3 square. So now the pawn will go after the bishop, so bx C3. Now to further continue the game, we can move the queen to E7 square. Okay, if you can see the position now here, now this is known as the 4 knights game and it's known as the symmetrical Medgar unpin. Okay, so to continue the game, you can, for the white, you can centralize the rook to E1. So further, for the black, you can use the knight to move to D8 square. And now in this position, you can use the D pawn to push to D4 square. And you develop the knight to E6 square. So this is how you can develop your pieces under the Spanish variation if you move the bishop to B5 square earlier. Okay, so let's take a look at some other moves. So let's say we use the D pawn this time. So we push the D pawn to D4 square. And now in this position, this is known as the Scotch variation. So what we can do is the black can use the black pawn to capture the D pawn. So EX D4. And now the white knight can go after the black pawn and next D4. So now this is known as the Scotch variation accepted. Okay, so in this position, for the black move, you can use the black bishop to move to the b4 square. And then you can use the knight to capture the c6 knight. And in this position, you can use the b pawn to capture the knight. So this is how you can develop your pieces under the Scotch variation. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, this is for knight's game, and let's take a look at some other moves that can be done. Okay, this time let's choose the a pawn. So let's say we use the a pawn to move to the a3 square. Okay, this position is known as the Gunsbug variation. So how you can further develop the pieces under the Gunsbug variation? Okay, let's see. So perhaps we can use the d pawn to d5 square. And for the white, we can develop the bishop to b5 square. Bishop to b5 square. And next, the black knight to capture the e4 pawn. And we have few of the moves that can be done by the white pieces. So it either can move its queen, or you can go for the knight capture pawn, or you can go for the castling. We have several options. But let's say we use the queen. Let's say we use the queen to e2 square. So in this position, the black move would be knight to capture the c3 knight. In this position, so the queen can go for the pawn capture, so it's a check, qx e5 check. And now in this position, you can either move your bishop or queen, or you can use your knight also. Okay, so let's say we use the queen to block qe7. And this is how you can develop your pieces under the Gunsbug variation. So this Gunsbug variation is applicable if you move the a pawn to a3 square. Here. Okay, next let's take a look at the some other moves. Okay, let's say we use the bishop. Use the bishop to move to c4 square. Okay, if you move the bishop to c4 square, this position, as you can see, it is known as the four knights game Italian variation. So in this position, how we can continue the game is perhaps we can use the black knight to capture the pawn in e4. So nx e4. And we use the white knight to capture the knight in e4, nx e4. So for the black, we can go for the pawn, d pawn. We can push it further in front to d5 square. So it's an attack for the both bishop and knight. So in this position, for the white, perhaps the white can go to d3 square backwards, controlling the center, and then the black pawn can go and capture the knight in the e4 square. And in this position, the white bishop can go for the pawn in e4 square. And now to continue the game for the black piece, it can use the bishop to move to the d6 square. And now the white, you can go for the castling, kingside castling. And the black also can go for the castling. So this is how you can develop your pieces under the Italian game, Italian variation. Okay, Italian variation. We already look at the Italian variation. Next, we will go for the some other moves. Okay, let's say we use the knight, the white knight, to capture the pawn in e5 square. So what would this be? So if we capture the pawn in e5 square, okay, this is known as the 4 knights game Halloween gambit. So this Halloween gambit, what we can do is, so the black can go after the white knight, so and next e5. Then we can use the pawn to move to the d4 square. So now for the black, we can go for the knight to g6 square as there's an attack. And in this position, what we can do is, for the white, you can push the e pawn to e5 square. And here again, you bring the knight to g8 square. So this is how you can play the Halloween gambit, how you can further your game under this Halloween gambit. Okay, let's take a look at the next move. Okay, let's say we move the bishop to d3 square. So how we can continue the game here is, we can, for the black, we can use the pawn to g6 square and the knight to d5 square, and the bishop to g7 square. So in this position, we can move the pawn, c pawn, to c3 square. And for the black, we can go for castling. And for the white also, we can go for the castling. And here in this position, as you can see, we can, the white knight is there, so the black knight can go after the white knight. So nx d5 and the pawn ex d5. So this is another way you can develop the game if you move the bishop to d3 square. Okay, so there are a few other moves that can be done also. For example, you can move the rook to b1, or you can use the a pawn to move to a4 square. So this is how you can use the pieces also. So just to recap again, the position of the 4 knights game: e4, e5, nf3, nc6, nc3, and nf6. And today we had looked at quite number of variations that we have under the 4 knight game. For example, we had looked at the Halloween gambit, we had looked at the Gunsbug variation, we even looked at the Scotch variation, which the position looks like this, Scotch variation. And also we looked at the Spanish variation of the 4 knights game, which looks like this, the position. So that's what we learned for the lesson today under the 4 knights game. So thank you for watching the lesson today. And to all out there, when life shuts a door, open it again and again, because it's a door and that's how they work. You should not despair easily. Okay, so meet you all in the next lesson. Till then, take care and see you all. Bye.